All right, my lovely dears, we are back with a video about how to determine the theme of a text. Remember, the theme is the author's message about the topic of the text. The theme is a message that can be applied to anyone or a variety of different stories. It's not just about this story, it's kind of a big idea. Now, we know that the theme is the author's message about a topic, so we're going to need to figure out what the topic is. We have some little numbers here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I'm going to be starting here. We've talked about what we're going to do, and now we're going to go into key details. After we determine the key details of the text, that's when we'll be able to say what the topic is. From the topic, we can figure out the moral, and with the topic and the moral together, we can find a theme. So, let's start off by reading this text. This text is called Feathers by an anonymous author. I did go ahead and cut off that title area there because I wanted to make sure you guys could see these footnotes and definitions down here. Remember when we see numbers within the text, that 1, 2, and 3, those are going to correspond to these right down here, that 1, 2, and 3. So 1 is right next to the word rabbi, and we can go right away down here and say rabbi is a Jewish scholar or teacher. So when they're talking about the village rabbi, they're talking about a really smart person or a teacher. I say smart person because a scholar, not just because I'm a teacher and a smart person. Okay, moving on. Number 2 here, we see number 2 is right next to the word soiled. When we come down here to number 2, soil is being used as a verb here, not a noun like soil, like dirt, but the verb soil to make something dirty. All right. And number 3 is next to this word absolved. Absolved is a great verb, which means to free from guilt or blame. So basically, if someone accuses you of something and you prove that you are innocent, you didn't do it, you have been absolved of that crime. You are no longer guilty. So that's a great word there. So keep that in mind as we go through. You can always review those. I will be reading. You may read with me or follow along. I would encourage you to think about what moments might be key details in this text as we go. A sharp-tongued woman was accused of starting a rumor. When she was brought before the village rabbi, she said, "I was only joking. My words were spread by others, and so I am not to blame." But the victim demanded justice, saying, "Your words soiled my good name." "I'll take back what I said," replied the sharp-tongued woman, "and that will take away my guilt." When the rabbi heard this, he knew that this woman truly did not understand her crime. And so he said to the woman, "Your words will not be excused until you have done the following. Bring my feather pillow to the market square, cut it, and let the feathers fly through the air. Then collect every one of the feathers from the pillow and bring them all back to me. When you have done this, you will be absolved of your crime." The woman agreed, but thought to herself, "The old rabbi has finally gone mad." She did as he asked and cut the pillow. Feathers blew far and wide over the square and beyond. The wind carried them here and there, up into trees and under the merchants' carts. She tried to catch them, but after much effort it was clear to her that she would never find them all. She returned to the rabbi with only a few feathers in her hand. Facing the rabbi, she said, "I could not take back the feathers any more than I could take back my words. From now on, I will be careful not to say anything that would harm another, for there is no way to control the flight of words any more than I could control the flight of these feathers." From that day, the woman spoke kindly to all she had met. All right, guys, so this was our story. Let's go through some key details. I'm just putting a little kind of gross little star thing next to key details. Let's walk through that. Look in the first paragraph and see if you see any really important key details there. All right, guys, right away, we know that the first paragraph is where she is accused. I don't have a great star there, but where she is accused. That's our first big key detail. I like finding key details by going paragraph by paragraph in a text that is in paragraph form, that is. So in the first paragraph, she's accused. That's a pretty big deal. If she were not accused, then this story would not have happened. That's the way to think about a key detail, is if you took that detail out of the story, could the story still happen? In this case, if she weren't accused, she would never do the pillow thing, never learn her lesson, blah, blah, blah. Alrighty. In paragraph 2, but the victim demanded justice, saying, "Your words soiled my good name." This is a good detail, but it's probably not a main key detail because it really matches that she's being accused. This is what the victim is accusing her with. In paragraph 3, go ahead and take a look at that and see if we think that that has any key details. All right, when we look at this, you might think, well, the woman misunderstanding, but I don't know if that's quite a real main one here. We can kind of move on from that. I think the biggest thing here between paragraphs 3 and 4 that I'm marking is that the rabbi realizes she doesn't understand. And when he realizes that, he gives her a task or a job to do. If he didn't realize that she didn't understand and didn't give her a task, this story would definitely not happen. So blah blah blah, the woman does her thing, and in paragraph 6 down here, we see that she tries to catch them all, but she realizes it was clear to her she would never find them all. All right, this is big. This is where she fails the task that was given to her, and she learns her lesson at the very end. So there's quite a few key details here, but ultimately allows us to boil it down to she was accused, she didn't understand her crime, the rabbi gave her a job to do, and she failed to do that job. Because she failed to do that job, she learned an important lesson. Now, let's take a look, now that we've gone through all of those pieces, and see if we can determine the topic of the text here. I'm giving you a few minutes to think about it. What would be the topic? All right, there's a few different options, many options probably. I'd probably start off with this right here, rumors. Oh, that's not gonna fit. Rumors, write it a little smaller. You might have also come up with words, or, let's see, I think she says it in here, joking, so jokes. I think these could all be topics. I'm gonna stick with this topic, rumors. Now that we've done that, let's think about the moral of this story. What lesson does the main character learn at the end of the story? Well, it says, from that day, the woman spoke kindly to all she met. So you could take something from in here. You could be looking in this final paragraph. We know that morals tend to be talked about in the end of the story, this final paragraph. I could not take back the feathers any more than I could take back my words. From now on, I will be careful not to say anything that would harm another. So the moral here is definitely, there's so many ways you could write this, but to boil it down is probably think before you speak. You can also be a little bit more specific of speak kindly to other people, or you should always be careful what you say. Now, let's translate that into a theme. Remember, the theme is going to be a lot more general, and it might be related to the moral, but it's definitely going to be related to the topic. All right, guys. There are a lot add different themes for any text. Keep that in mind. So you may have come up with something a little different than me, and that's probably still great. But the theme that I would think about would be something like, if people aren't careful with their words, they may say something they'll regret. You could also say that of, if people aren't careful with their words, they may say something they can't take back. I really like to write my themes with this, starting with if. And that kind of gives us an option to set up the little scenario. If this happens, then this might happen. So if people aren't careful with their words, remember we had words up here as a topic option, then they might say something they regret or wish they hadn't said. All right, team members, this looks like a lot. It kind of is a lot. There's a lot that goes into this task of determining a theme of a text. That's why we're spending so much time on this. There's really a lot to it. I would always recommend to be looking for your key details. That's a big one. The key details really help get you there. And this topic over here is another huge piece to determining the theme. The moral is really helpful, but not every story is going to have a super clear moral. So sometimes if the moral doesn't jump out at you, it's okay to not necessarily think about that step. But if you read a story and you're like, yeah, the lesson was think before you speak, or don't say mean things, that really helps get you close to this theme. If you say mean things, or you could even say if someone doesn't think before they speak, then they might say something they regret, right? You could even include this moral within your theme to help you out. So there's a lot of good ways that'll help you, but the biggies are your key details and your topic. All right, guys, I know you're going to be awesome. Go have a good time.